Maybe we'll still be chatting. Who knows?
Maybe. 4 hours later.
Anything that a doctor has to do that finishes with ectomy is something I don't want to be a part of. All right, thanks, man.
Okay, so I guess I'll just do the regular intro, and we'll start with Black Templar, then talk about the campaign book and see where that takes us. Okay?
Sounds good.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to CanHammer, episode 214. Joining me tonight, my usual co-host, Nick, and our good friend, Steve. Unfortunately, Darren was last minute pulled away from us to perform
ectomied from the cast.
Yeah, so Darren is performing surgery, so there's not going to be a Darren tonight, and so we're still moving on because we haven't done the cast in too long. In fact, I feel like so out of practice now. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I forgot to say from the Great White North. I forgot
what
to do
I do with my hands? What
impression.
do I do with my hands? Yeah.
So we haven't recorded a podcast in over a month now, and we've been busy, but still, that's no excuse. But tonight we are back, and we are back with some really fascinating and interesting and exciting things to talk about. Our main topic today will be Black Templars, which is an army that is near and dear to my heart, and also I know very near and dear to our guest tonight, Steve's heart. I shouldn't say guest, because Steve has been joining us a lot.
He's like basically part of CanHammer.
Honorary.
Whether he wants to be or not, he's part of CanHammer now. Yeah.
Honorary
Canadian now, so
yeah, exactly. He's essentially Canadian now.
For anyone who hasn't listened to us before, Steve is the host of a great podcast called the 40K Game Changers, which you can find on the Frontline Gaming Network, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I just recently listened to your last episode, and now I'm blanking on who it was with, but I remember listening to it on my walk with my dog a couple of days ago. Who was your last guest, Steve?
Now I'm blanking on who it was.
It's contagious.
Well, because I've recorded a couple since then, and I'm like,
recorded a couple since.
Where are we? What's my name?
Oh, it was from Army Painter. It was from the guy from the Army Painter.
Adam Bramwick.
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy from Army Painter.
Just super lovely man.
It was a great episode. I'm just really ashamed now that I blanked on his name.
He's just the loveliest guy. Although I want to slap him because we had this great chat and like we get on so well and we've been in touch before. And then like 2 days after we record, they launched this brand new paint line. He said in the chat, "Oh, there's going to be something coming out soon, that I can't say anything about." And then it was like literally a couple of days later. So I'm going to say, Adam, if you're listening, we could have recorded like 3 days later, and at least we could have broken the news in our podcast.
They released an air paint line. Is that it? Is that what? Did I see that?
They've released an air paint line, but they've just released a thing, and I think Adam's going to kill me, but I'm going to say it's their version of contrast paint. It's called Speed Paint.
Right. Yeah.
And and it looks great. Like it looks really, really cool. Like it is got the the shade and the highlight all built into the paint there, and you only need to put one coat on.
Yep, one thick coat.
one thick coat. Just like slamming his head on his desk. As you can see, CanHammer production is a very professional production.
Yes, we're a very professional outfit.
Lots of prep.
As you can see, Game Changers is also professional. The host can't remember who he's talked to. In my defense, I just had my second COVID jab yesterday.
Yes.
I'm all vaxxed up, but I'm feeling a little bit spacey.
Yeah, that happens. What did you get? Who are you? Team what?
Well, we don't have a choice over here. Like New Zealand is not big enough to provide options.
Yeah,
we don't. We've got 5 million people, which for any decent sized company is like the leftovers. Just take.
It's a rounding error somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. So we're all Team Pfizer. I think we have actually got some coming in just to bolster the resources from whoever the other company is. But New Zealand's got the Pfizer vaccine rolling out.
That's nice.
Yeah. So it's fine.
France was Team Pfizer, I guess. I'm Team Moderna. I didn't think.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But I know this isn't an obvious. People will get all riled up about it. But can I ask what informed the decision as to which? Like, does it matter which one you go with?
Or, no, you don't get a choice.
When I walked in, what
They give
informed
you
me
what
is
they
what
give
they
you.
told me I was getting. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you didn't do like hours of research and then go, I think this one's better than that one, and then go to the appropriate clinic. It was
All
just-
the research was on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. I did all my own research on Facebook and YouTube.
so,
All right,
Walked into the hockey arena and got jabbed.
let's perhaps move on from the topic of whose vaccine is best, even though I know Nick believes that Team Moderna is better.
Well, I feel
And-
like science believes that, so
And
I'm just saying.
let's pretend we're a Warhammer podcast and talk about the exciting news of yet another Space Marine release. It's been a while. We really needed one more Space Marine army to come out, didn't we?
yeah. Ask any chaos player, any Tyrannid player, any Eldar player. They are super
Definitely
excited
Space
about
Marines.
this.
Yeah.
Long overdue that we got a new Space Marine supplement. Although this one, I'll give him a pass on that one, because for many of us who started this hobby a long time ago in the 90s, Black Templar holds a special place in our hearts. So there's this comes for me anyway, wrapped in an aura of nostalgia. So I'm willing to forgive Games Workshop for shoving yet another Marine supplement down our throat, because it is Black Templar. And Steve, I think your first army was also Black Templar, was it?
I feel like a lot of people would say, like a lot of Marine players that I've spoken to, it seems like every second one has Black Templar as their first army. But yeah, absolutely, it was. When I first went in, I was looking at, you go in and you get caught by the imagery, right? That giant cutout of the Marine and the models that they have on the table. And then you start looking around at the lore and that sort of stuff. And yeah, Black Templar was, I feel like every Catholic kid, Black Templar is going to be the
Exactly.
that immediately kind of goes, yes, this is it. But I loved my Black Templars. I painted them faithfully. They were the army I learned to paint on, and I really enjoyed playing with them. But this was into 8th edition, where Marines went through a bit of a funk for a while, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to put those to one side and see if I can get an army that wins. Turns out the army wasn't the problem. I have this unique ability to make even a top tier army look second rate. I had Richard Siegler's Tau army and was being coached by Richard Siegler on how to use it, and still couldn't get it right.
Well,
I mean, bad.
Somebody's got to keep those win rates down. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. I mean,
that's right. There's no average without us.
That's right.
So anyway, but Black Templar's first army, quite right. And I honestly, we talked about regrets last time. You guys know that I sold all of my Templars, and so now I'm building a new force. And it's Friday in New Zealand, so tomorrow I get to go and pick up my new box. I've got the box arriving tomorrow.
Very nice.
Awesome.
And
the
they
cover
really
art for the book looks so good. It's the OG 3rd edition cover.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, my nostalgia for Templars come from further back in the past than Steve's. I never actually had a Templars army, because my first Space Marine army was Dark Angels. I started in 2nd edition, so I didn't have the 3rd edition box.
I'm out. I can't talk.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Get out of
So
here.
fake here. Yeah, exactly.
But
He's going to tell us how he's an
Your first Marine army. You
Yeah,
said
exactly.
Marine army and then
I'm
Dark
an
Angels
old
in the same
man. I've
sentence.
been playing this game for, oh my God, like almost going on 30 years.
He's trying to flex on us that he's been playing this game for so long that says he didn't start with Black Templars. Like,
so let me make my point though. I'm looking right now on my other screen at the art for the book that comes in the special box that you're getting tomorrow, Steve. And Games Workshop did something. I mean, they did that on purpose. Obviously, they're playing up the nostalgia that people have for this classic 90s 40K art. And the cover of the book is the classic 3rd edition art from back then. And I just love that. I mean, today it looks a little weird and goofy because the art style has evolved and changed. But I just look at that and I'm transported back to being a kid. And I know it's the same for a lot of people.
Well, I was 100% when you told me today that you actually bought it, because you told me today 15 minutes earlier you weren't going to buy it.
Yes.
I was like, okay, well, this idiot's probably going to buy multiple boxes. I was going to say, if you buy multiple boxes, I will buy the book just because I like the cover that much from you if you have a second one. But yeah.
I only bought the one box.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, so my experience with Black Templars wasn't second. It was third edition, but I actually played Black Templars.
Very nice.
And that was when, if you failed your morale, for some reason, your whole army went closer to the enemy. So your whole army would be in Rhino. It was like broken. It was like you play your friends. And at that time, I think we were like teens, right? So we weren't like super competitive, but I mean, you still want to compete, but you have no idea what you're doing. And I played this army that was like literally just moved. You could still get out of rhinos and charge, but they're like, oh, I'll shoot you off. But then your army just kept getting closer and closer. And it was just not fun for them. It was like delightful for me. But yeah, exactly. So that was my experience. So yeah, this is, although I'm not a Space Marine player and all my Space Marines are still kind of in their boxes right now, it is still kind of an exciting release. And I'm happy for Black Templars players because it does seem like Templars out of all the chapters have been kind of neglected over the last few years. So, I mean, we'll get into it. Those heretics and aliens and Xenos won't purge themselves. So let's, you guys can take it away with the Black Templars chat, because I know you've dug into it a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, I've taken a close look at the rules. I don't know about you, Steve. Have you looked at the rules yet?
I've looked at well, as much as I can. I've yeah, I've looked at some things that people have been throwing around, sending around. A lot of it's very hard to read, and I figure, well, I've only got to wait till tomorrow to read the book properly. So
yes,
but I have had the chance to look at a couple of preview battle reports and those like Auspex doing their thing. I talked to Richard a little bit about it as well and some of the stuff. But I was going to say that on the one of the things with Black Templars when I started playing was at the end of 7th edition, and I feel like my memory is that they did the same there, where you failed a morale, you went closer to the opponent for some reason, like you were able to move closer if you failed morale. And I didn't understand the game enough to know that that's a bonus. That's a good thing. I was like,
if you want to fight them, that's great. Yeah, it's like go the other way. Yeah,
I'm going to run away, but run closer. But all the old timers, when I got into it, 7th edition and 8th edition, and I think the great thing about this book, or the reason it's kind of attracting so much attention, is at that point, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, it feels like old timers in the game, like Francois, have been saying for years, oh, remember when Black Templars had their own codex? You see the 4 guys sitting on their seats outside a shop smoking and saying, oh, remember back when Templars had their own codex?
Everybody getting their hair cut. Yeah, just completely.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Smoking and drinking whatever. Sherry, talking about it. Anyway, there was. You have sherry in Canada? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
It's like a real. That's what my grandmother used to drink, and I don't know anyone else that. Anyway, so there's a lot of, as you guys have kind of touched on, a lot of nostalgia associated with Black Templars, and it seems like it's everybody's second favorite army. If they had to play Marines, this would be the thing, right? So, but yeah, to answer your question, I've had a chance to look at some of the rules, some of the relics. There are things that really jump out immediately from the point of view of someone who's very much a mid-tier player. And I might be looking, and I'll get your guys' take on this, but I might be looking to solve the problems that I have with Space Wolves with Black Templars. So you kind of look for things and you go, man, that's the example that I'm thinking of is, so Space Wolves are amazing when they get into combat. They will just mince everything. I play the successes, so the double exploding 6s, +1 to hit when you charge. If I get to combat, I basically can kill everything. Getting to combat is the hard part, right? So the durability is the problem. Not having the if you've got Redemptors, you don't have invols, all of that. So looking at the Black Templar book, the things that jumped out straight away are the ability to put a 5-up invol across the army, right? And then using relics and warlord traits and things to bolster that further. The Aurelian Shroud gives you once per game 4-up invul for everything within an aura range, and you can boost that out to 6 inches. And then you've got other things that will give you not only an invul but a feel no pain. So it may be that I'm just kind of looking to solve my wolf problems with the Templars, because those are the things that jumped out at me straight away. I don't know if that means they'll be competitive, but I feel like if I can take 3 Redemptors, give them a 5-up invul, and then maybe a 4-up, and then a feel no pain for mortal wounds at least, well, that feels pretty good. It's just what kind of damage will they do when they eventually get into combat? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's just maybe a more tempered approach. Like you say, you may struggle sometimes with armies where, say, Richard Siegler had, like, I don't know if we were on air when we were talking about, because we had a discussion pre-air that we were worried about being on air. Anyway, but you would mention like you'd like taken some armies and you said you'd struggled with them despite them being kind of pretty high in the meta, and that's not necessarily wouldn't necessarily be you a bad thing. It's just maybe it didn't fit your play style. And as much as like say Space Wolves, you want to get in and fight, and they do that, but there's like an element to that that's like maybe your play style involves being a bit more tentative, needing a bit more of that defense, like so that the Black Templars can pick your battles and you don't need to just go in and kill everything, just like kind of be somewhat killy, but also so yeah, maybe this, you know, Black Templars will like kind of fit more like what your play style is. Because I know when I play stuff that like just isn't how I like to play, it could be the best book in the game and I'll kind of be fighting it out in the bottom tables because it's just not part, you know, not for me. That looks good though. Like that 5-up invul, I take that personally as a Thousand Suns player.
Okay, let's just backtrack a little bit for anyone who maybe hasn't seen the rules. What we're talking about now is the Templar super doctrine, quote unquote. It's not really a super doctrine, but what they get for being Black Templars is it's very fluffy. They get vows. So before the battle, you pick those at the table, not during the list building stage, which is very powerful. And you make a vow at the beginning of the game, which, by the way, you don't have to. You can take a vow. And I say can because each vow comes with a passion, which is also a downside, right? Something bad you're going to get with your something good. And I can see some edge cases where you might not want to take one. One of the stronger vows, the one that jumped out at me as well right away as very powerful, is one that gives your entire army a 5-up invulnerable save. And that's great. Having played against Deathwatch that has that relic shield that gives invulns all around against 3 Redemptors with 5-up invulns, it's very strong. But it does come with a downside. The downside is you don't get cover. The benefits of cover is the way it's phrased. So you do have to be careful. Now, if you're playing a mostly mechanized Templar army, so Redemptors, Land Raider Crusaders, which every single Black Templar army should be required to have a Land Raider Crusader in it. I don't care if it's good. It should be in there. Then you get a 5-up invuln on that too. But not being able to get cover on, say, power armored bodies, meaning you can't get a 2-up save for just standing in a ruin, that's a fairly significant problem. In the same way, I'm pretty sure that would also keep you from getting the benefits of dents. So no getting -1 to be hit. You do have to be careful. But
so in an orc buggy meta, that might be a little, you know, make you sweat a little bit.
Right. So in that case, maybe you don't take that one. There are 5, I think, Templar vows. 4
Is
or 5.
one that does one of them apply to killing orc buggies by chance, or
so nothing that jumped out at me, but orc buggies are a problem for everyone. I don't think that Templars have specific tools against that, although I suppose when the speed wall gets called, some of their stuff is AP3, so the 5-up invuln can possibly help there. But, you know, it comes with a plus and a minus. So you get your vow, and then you get your passion. There's one that you get reroll 1s to wound against Psychers. So if you're playing against Thousand Suns, then that's great. Except you then can't perform actions within 18 inches of Psychers, which I'll be honest, is not a problem because you rarely, in that matchup, you wouldn't take an action secondary. So
I would love to go to a tournament and play like a newer Black Templar player that takes that, and then they're like, "I'll take banners, retrieve Auxerius data." Just like this, the best.
But that's because you're a big meanie who likes to beat down on people.
Yeah, definitely. I can't hang at the top table, so I need to go beat people that are just like, "Hey, I just started this game. Is this fun?" Oh boy.
I love that the vows are fluffy. I'm interested in your guys' take on something though, because the CanHammer mentioned this, and you just mentioned it, Francois. That according to the way it's written in the book, you can choose this in that stage of each game, right at the beginning. You know, once you've kind of figured some other stuff out before you start play, you can go, okay, I'm going to choose these vows. Do you think that TOs will buy that? A lot of tournaments I go to, for example, insist that you decide your psychic powers for each psyker, and in fact, every tournament that I've been to, you've got to have your psychic powers, you've got to have your relics, you've got to have your warlord traits, all of that stuff figured out and written down so everybody can see it. Do you think that TOs will say, yeah, we're going to have to do that with vows as well? You're going to choose your vows, that'll be it for the tournament.
No, because it very clearly says in the book at the end of the read mission briefing step. So it's when you're at the table reading your mission. And in a way, it's very similar to what sisters get. Sisters also get to choose at the table if they want. Usually they pick the exploding sixes, but if they're against psychers, they might pick the dispel, the Night of Witch on fives, right? So that's another example of that pick at the table kind of ability, which I'm not remembering the sisters wording, but I'm sure it's very similar. So it seems quite clear to me that it's meant to be done mission by mission at the table.
That was my impression as well, that it was mission by mission, and that I don't think I've read the actual rule, but I might have, but it seemed like the intent was very clear that you should be able to walk up to the table and adjust depending on the situation, the mission, the opponent's army, and whatnot. Yeah.
It's funny, right? If that wasn't the case, everyone would always take the 5-up in one.
Yeah. Excuse me. It did seem quite powerful. But then when I think about it, my most common opponent is my friend Aaron, who plays AdMech, and they get their cards, their 2 do anything you want cards that they can flip around each turn, right, or each battle round. So doing it once at the start of the game doesn't seem that crazy when you think
exactly.
Some aren't scared.
It's definitely not overpowered.
No.
Yeah.
But you're right. It really gives you that opportunity to, when you're walking up and you're facing Thousand Suns, you go, okay, we're going to do this one. We won't take any actions, but we'll do this one. When you're facing something like AdMech and they've got they've got all these chickens, or an army that has lots of big guns, you go 5-up invul. That may not help if the AdMech army has just got Skitarii all across the board and 1 million shots, but against an army with lots of big guns. And then you've got another one which gives you +1 attack, or I can't remember the details of the others. But
you're always an assault doctrine if you are fighting or something like that. Like you always count as being in the assault doctrine.
Which actually that's really powerful. I mean, again, playing as someone who plays Wolves, you know that when you're in assault doctrine, that's what you're waiting for the whole time, and if you can get into that, that's good.
Well, except that the only thing they get to be for being an assault doctrine is the extra AP on close combat attack, because they don't have a super doctrine for assault, right? So yes, it's good, especially since it's worded in a way that you count as an assault doctrine only when you're in engagement range. So you can still shoot in tactical doctrine your bolters, and you get tactical doctrine, then you charge and you get assault doctrine. But all you get is an extra pip of AP. So that one doesn't seem so powerful.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the latest, I played Death Guard, Necrons, and Thousand Suns over 9th. And AP makes such a difference. Like the biggest thing that Death Guard hates is this like throwaway AP everywhere, because now your 2-up saves are 3 or 4-up saves. And you're like, dude, I'm paying like 20 points a wound here. And you're just showing up with AP2 swords, like just cause it's fun. And so it's like, yeah, that was fun. Your assault intercessors killed 2 Death Shroud. I mean, I'm happy about this. So I don't know. I feel like it's on the surface, it's not showy, but I feel like especially if you're wanting to be in close combat already, it's not bad. I mean, you don't have to wait to be into assault doctrine to fight.
Well, the big thing for me with, and again, I'm going back to my Wolves, but if you were to arm your, say, Vanguard vets with the right tools, being an assault doctrine takes your claws into neg 3 AP and takes your Thunderhammer into neg 3 AP, and suddenly all of these ignore -1 and 2. That forget about it. We're suddenly in neg 3, and that makes actually for all your re-rolling claws, that makes a massive difference against that Skitarii unit that's got the 4-up and the ignores -1 and 2.
No, that's a good point. And that's why it's so powerful to be able to pick at the table, because if you run into an army that has, say, ignore AP 1 and 2, and you have a bunch of AP 2, then you can go, you know what, I'm going to pick this one. And now my AP 2 claws are AP 3, and your shtick doesn't work anymore. Of course, if it's against AdMech, then you have to choose between that and the 5-up invuln against their last chickens. But
I mean, like, look, I feel like the litmus test shouldn't be AdMech.
No, it definitely shouldn't.
At any point a book comes out, and it's like, you can't be looking at it, oh, it doesn't go well into AdMech. Like, nothing goes well into AdMech. You should just forget AdMech and just like, how does this book go into realize
That's the guy I
Yeah.
play all the time. Every week I'm playing against Admech, and so I just come home depressed every week going, well, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Well, that didn't work. Let me try something else.
you
Oh,
know what the
crap.
next book that will help you to fight Admech? It's called Chapter Approved. I think that would be
Hopefully.
That's right.
Let me go on a tangent here and tell you a story, dear listener, about the game I had against AdMech last week. Because
oh,
for
he's real
our
salty.
local, yeah, Nick has heard that story a couple of times. I'm not salty. It's just for our local 40K league. I'm playing Drukari, right? So I can't really complain. My army's also overtoned, but I pair up against Jeremy, which is our local AdMech player. And Jeremy plays a plain list similar to what Richard Ziegler played at the US Open most recently, right? So it's a very alpha strikey list. And I go second. Okay. So now I'm thinking I got to make my 5-up invulnerable saves. And this is what is making me think of it, because Templars can get 5-up invulnerable saves, right? By the time I had lost all my raiders, I'd made 1 out of 10 night shield saves.
Yeah.
And turn 1, before I got to move a single model, I had lost almost 800 points of my army. So yeah, that was a bad time.
Do you know what we should do? Another time we've got to do a whole episode on those games where the dice just screwed you. Like we can all remember there are games where you've gone into the game and your game plan is okay or whatever, and then you just I played same sort of thing. I played my buddy with Admech last week, and I actually was going okay. Like everything was working out pretty well. And he flew planes over, and with the bombs, drop bombs on a unit of Vanguard vets. And I'm like, that's okay. There's only 5. He's rolling 5 dice. What's he going to do?
Yeah.
He rolled 5 4-ups, so that's 2.5 of them dead there. He flew another plane over and killed all. So there's 1 guy left. And I went, do you know what? That's okay, because that guy is going to go and get me Rod, or he's going to go and he's fast. He can just fly and get on that objective. I'll just use my 1 guy. He's not going to do any damage, but he still will get me points or fit into my game plan. And then he failed morale.
As long as you don't roll a 6.
And that happened twice. I had another Vanguard unit that he got down to 2 guys. I had the same idea, same plan. Well, I failed morale and then rolled a 1, so they both ran away. So I'm like, sometimes the dice just screw you,
You
know.
know,
I have
that
a
is an
horror
idea
story too for the dice, and
Okay.
and just to go like how this sticks with you. This game was like 5 years ago.
Right.
Because I remember it's at the second CanHammer team tournament. It used to be Warhammer Fantasy. I believe this was the first one that was 40K because Fantasy was destroyed. And so our team would set up. That was Logan, kind of one of the OG CanHammer members. He was leading the team. I was on his team. Blah, blah, blah. We get paired up against this team. And I was kind of like, Logan was into a tough match. I was kind of that middle match that if I could clear this match, the team's going to make it past the top team, like the top protector team. And so at the time, I had a demons list, but it was kind of broken in the sense that you had like the rerollable 2-up invul saves on screamers. I had Fate Weaver. I had Be'lakor, and they're flying, so it took 6s to hit to kill him. Anyways, I went up against a knight army with, at the time, what was rerollable 2-up cover save Dark Angels bikes. But then my spells kind of negated all of that. So turn 1, I like wiped out most of his army and half killed all of his knights. And like the other guy's like, oh, you know what? I'm probably getting 0. Now you went to Logan. Yeah, I got this. I'm going to get 20 points. The next turn, I fail a rerollable 2-up to get my 2-up save on the Screamer Star. Be'lakor dies from apparels. And then Fate Weaver rolls the 1 to fall out of the sky and then gets killed by a knight because he was right next to the knight. And then the knights blow away all the Screamers. In like 1 turn, I went from like, I'm going to get a 20 out to like, I lost 0 points. It's because all of these dice rolls. And I was like, this really sticks with you, man.
Yeah. I know. Like I said, I think there's a whole cast in this, and we can get people to send their stories in, because it's just like I've got a couple more that probably likewise from tournaments years ago where a vehicle blew up, another vehicle blew up, another vehicle, all in a line, rolling 6s and not having enough wounds left. Anyway,
and I think that's why
nice horror stories.
Everyone believes they're unlucky because those are the ones that stick with you. You don't remember the game where you rolled amazing the entire game. You remember the one where you rolled a double 1 into a double 1 to lose you the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Templars.
Dice, that's what I'm told.
Yep. Back to Templars. We've talked about the vows. I don't want to do a review of the book. That's been done to death anyway. But I want to talk about a couple more things that I think are really interesting.
Okay, what do you guys think about the super unkillable Chaplain?
Okay. Well, I was going to leave that one for later, but we can talk about it now. One of the most amazing things you can do with that Black Templar book, and I'm definitely doing that, I think that's almost an auto-include in any list, is stack so much buffs on a bike chaplain that he is damn near unkillable, except maybe by mortal wound spam, but still, they get a 5-up against mortal wounds. So
Nice.
just to give you an idea, there's a relic in that book, one of the best relics ever, reduces all incoming damage to 1. You get shot by a Titan whose Volcano lands, 1 damage.
It's so.
Yeah.
Are we thinking like that's not a typo that like the intern like rushing this codex wrote 2 instead of by?
Yeah, it's supposed to be reduced by 1, but they wrote 2 1.
I thought the same. I was like, sometimes when you have a book, and I was like reading this, and sometimes when you read a line in a book and you don't understand and you start flipping the page back and forth, like,
yeah,
I was doing that. I was like, reduce the damage to 1. There must be more to this somewhere in here that explains that better, because that can't be. So wait, that D3+3 las cannon thing, Cognis las, that 1 damage. Okay, I'll take that.
So your 4-up invuln bike chaplain is sitting on the direct assault objective in the middle of the table, and he's just dancing to all the ballisteri shooting at him. He's just like,
So you do have to be careful, because it's not the ballisteri that are going to kill him. It's their rangers and vanguards with their many damage 1 shots. He can still die because he's still, he is like 8 wounds, I think. He's like 8 wounds. He's 3-up save, 4-up invuln, 5-up feel no pain against mortal wounds. You can give him a 4-up feel no pain against everything with a litany. Like, he's going to be really, really, really hard to kill. But listener out there, do not just park him in the middle of the battlefield and think he can attack an entire army. He cannot
do that.
But
do 100% that.
But
it'll work.
If you send him like a missile into, I don't know, a combat beast, like someone who has damage 6 combat attacks, that damage gets reduced to 1, so you can really target something with that guy. And he's no slouch in combat either. Like, you can Hulk him out with a litany. He will kill things as well. That chaplain, I'm in love with that chaplain. He's amazing.
Yeah he's it'll be interesting to there are some things, Games Workshop has done this before. Every now and then, I know it's very unusual, but every now and then a book comes out and it has something in it that gets nerfed. And this might be one of those things that they think about later and go, we could possibly change that.
So I will be CanHammer did the math on this guy, and they're like, if the number of hits to have a 50% chance of killing this guy, if you're rolling 3s to hit and 3s to wound, assuming a 4-up invul and a 5-up feel no pain, is 52. To have a 50% chance of killing him.
It's so good.
And the math is really simple.
If it's 6s and 6s, it's 828.
I mean,
The thing is, if this guy is in your army, it doesn't really matter if everything else is dying, right? So he's there really to buff up and put litanies and do things and provide rerolls and whatever. So if all the Vanguard vets are dead, then he's just sitting there by himself. He can't really do anything. So all is not lost if you're up against him. But man, to have him in your army, just that character that you don't have to worry so much about, that's pretty cool.
It's definitely not game breaking in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't make the book overpowered in any way. In fact, I think it's like a solid Marine book, but no more than that, which is fine. We shouldn't want every book to be at Mech or Drukhari level, not by a long shot. But, having that kind of...
Interesting coming from a Drukhari player.
Listen, I've been saying since April that Drukhari needs to be nerfed, but until they are, I will keep playing them.
Yeah.
Having that guy in your army is awesome, and it's kind of fluffy. In fact, some of the best things about this book is the chaplains and the litanies, and that's just great because that's what Black Templars are all about.
Man, it's fluffy, right? I love that the super doctrine thing, they don't get it because they're they get their vows kind of instead of the super doctrine, and it just feels so much more Black Templar-y. I do think you've got to give Games Workshop credit for that in 9th edition. There are obviously lots of people have talked about various things that are wrong, but man, they go to so much trouble to make each army kind of as fluffy as possible to fit within the lore, and Black Templars are not a Codex compliant army, never have been. So don't give them a super doctrine, give them something else entirely. I really love that. And a lot of people are going to be taking Grimaldus and one other chaplain, or maybe forgetting Grimaldus and taking 2 chaplains. If you just want the sexy beast, you take Grimaldus and Helbrecht. My God, that model. And he's going to be. Don't charge Helbrecht and get him into combat. He will just destroy you. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's a beast.
I was so excited. Like when they first, we were talking about this in our chat, Like when they first released the Emperor's Champion model, I was like, oh, I can't believe this is so amazing, right? And I was saying I'd be so disappointed if as a Black Templar player, you'd still have to use the 25 millimeter Grimaldus because they didn't bother updating it.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy they did with Helbrecht. Oh, that's great. I'm super excited for Black Templar players for sure.
Yeah.
No, it just rubs it in that they haven't updated Dante or Azrael though.
That's right.
Suck
There's a lot of
nerds.
salt from other people.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the most amazing thing was when they updated I feel like the Emperor's Champion was the first one, right? That came out.
The first
like,
one they reviewed, yeah.
This is the thing. And then there were in Black Templar chats, there were people going, yeah, it's okay, but I don't like the way they've done the, it's too plain in the front. And you're like, shut up. It's
If
amazing.
I could go to you and strangle you, I would. He's great. He's so perfect. I love
Yeah.
They aren't people of culture, clearly.
Yeah.
They
People that craft the models really give a shit what you think.
Yeah.
Well, we should talk about the models a little bit more, actually, because they have redone a lot of models. Like, this is a huge release for Games Workshop, because it's not just the Emperor's Champion and Grimaldus and Helbrecht. It's not just characters, right? They've redone the Crusader Squad and the Sword Brothers and all that stuff. Yeah. It's the entire range, basically, is new.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
The Black Templar version of Scouts, the new guys that have the haircut exactly the same as Jim Carrey's character from Dumb and Dumber. Just like the first thing I thought of. But listen, it's so good. And there's been a bit of comment about the value of the box. We've talked about the value proposition of Warhammer before, and yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's a money pit, but what you get out of it. And I read an article recently, someone had posted about, how it's not worth what you're getting and so on. But actually, look, I've got Assault Marines there ready to paint as Black Templars. So I'm going to get this box, and the guys with the veil, the guys with the tabards, are going to be the sword brethren, like the sergeant in the unit. We're not going to buy, well, some people might, but I'm not going to buy like 20 boxes and make unit after unit with every guy having a tabard. I'm going to have that guy as like the special one in my Assault Marines, right? In my Assault Intercessors. So you get value by spacing it out, spreading it out, using things in a clever way where you'll have a really thematic army. It'll look amazing. There'll be tabards dotted around the place, and it'll be super cool. And that's where you're going to get your value.
But actually, if you do the math on what's in the box, it's decent value, because there's data cards, a codex, a Redemptor Dreadnought, a Crusader Squad, a character. You add it all up at like GW MSRP, which we can argue about whether or not it's inflated. But if you add it up at what Games Workshop will sell all that stuff to you separately, you do get a discount by buying this box.
Right. It's like 40,000 New Zealand dollars, but that's...
I think I've mentioned this before, but every time there's a new release, we tend to go on the New Zealand site because it goes live before the rest of the world on the GW website. So we get to see like the pictures that they put up and all that before. And I get sticker shock every time I click on that, because you get the New Zealand dollar prices.
Yeah.
And it's just
like 4 billion.
Here's the funny thing for like anyone in the rest of the world, except for Australia, because you guys are in the same boat as us. But if you anywhere in Europe, Canada, the States, honestly do this. Go to the New Zealand site. You will just feel better about your place in the world. The thing you guys need to know in Canada is our dollar, your dollar and my dollar, is very similar in value when compared to, say, the US dollar.
Yep.
So
I'm on it right now. A private repulsor executioner is $200. Jesus Christ.
This box, I've ordered the box. It's 345 New Zealand dollars to get the box.
Yeah,
it's like. But again, I don't know what it is.
I'm just going to order you Warhammer, and I'm just going to ship it to you, because clearly
that's what I need. I need someone there. Yeah. In all seriousness, we've talked about it before, and my big thing is I really want to. We've got, I don't know how, but in our town of 350,000 people, we've got 2 Warhammer shops within 15 minutes driving distance from my house. We've got 2 games workshop Warhammer shops. So, and then there's another, like a hobby shop up a little further up the coast, and they sell product as well. So we're really well served for retail outlets, and I want to make sure they stay there. So I'm quite big on supporting your local hobby store, your local games workshop, whatever it is, getting in there. And like, those guys got me into the game. They're the guys that provide tables for me to play at, give me advice.
Run the events, yeah.
Yeah, and Will at one of the local stores has taught me so much in terms of just painting, and it's so I got to support these guys. There are things that I will order from other people, but for the most part, I'm going to get my new stuff.
I guess this whole Templar army was about to ship you. I'll just go ahead on the FedEx site and cancel that. Steve doesn't want it. I mean, it was like 4,000 points of Templars, but what can I tell you? Guy doesn't want it.
This says more about my hoarding than anything else. But I was looking at this Templar box, and I decided it was the fiscally responsible thing to do to buy it, because my pile of shame can provide me with enough models to build a half-decent Templar army.
I could break into his house, steal all the models for you, Steve, ship them to you, and he wouldn't notice.
I don't know that I've ever heard Warhammer 40,000 and fiscally responsible. They don't normally go like side by side like that. That's very good.
I'm telling you, 40,000 is a whole new meeting over at Oswald's house.
I'm going to say to my wife, there's a professor in Canada who says it's fiscally responsible.
So I did recently, I don't know why I did that. I must be some kind of a masochist, but I went and punched every single painted model that I have, painted model that I have into BattleScribe, and I tallied it all up, and it added up to 47,000 points.
Points, okay.
Points, not dollars, points.
I was like, whoa. Okay.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Let's guess here. 47,000 points. That's not unpainted either.
That's just painted. To be fair, I bought a lot of it secondhand, but yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, because that's making me depressed now.
Yeah.
To be faced by my failings.
Back to the models. You're right.
To go to university. Yeah.
My kids are going to have to start working really soon. Like, one of them 13, and I've got twin daughters who are 10. But if they're not out earning money for the family soon, we're all going to be in a lot of trouble.
To the coal mines.
I'm telling you, kids, this Warhammer is really sinking us. I don't want to point any fingers here, but
that's right. I'm getting the hard word. Unfortunately, it's my army or one of you.
We always knew who the favorite would hear story.
But back to the models. The models are look, and I know I'm a fanboy, so there'll be people that don't like different aspects. There are a bunch of memes with the guy cleaning the sword.
Well, that's awesome.
And they're funny, like, they're so good. But I just love it. I love that Hellbreak's getting like an oversized base. But he's infantry, so he can still walk that base through walls if he has enough room to get to the other side all the way. But it's cool, right? Like, they're cool models. The sculpts now with what they can do, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I really love all the models there. I have no complaints. Sure, the servitor wiping the sword is a little weird, but you know what? I feel like Space Marines probably have servitors following them around and like shining their armor, because they're all about keeping the armor clean and pristine. So that kind of works for me.
I feel like Hellbreak has got to be saying, "Could you wait till I get the sword all the way out of the orc?" He's cleaning it while it's still,
the Warhammer 40,000 universe is not really well known for dignity, like human dignity. So I feel like it's not well past Hellbreak to have like just some lobotomized creature wiping his swords down. Like,
the lobotomized, the servitor is not making decisions based on, like, let's assess the situation, work out what the best course of action. That is just his job is clean the sword. He's like, sword clean. It's not,
exactly.
That's it. The other thing that Warhammer 40,000 is not known for is just things that are logical in general. We have space Vikings riding giant wolves to battle with no helmet on in space, and it's because it's cool. That's what it's just cool, like, and that's all that matters really in the end.
To be fair, anyone who argues that something isn't logical in the Warhammer universe is fighting a losing battle from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's
trust
right.
me, on the internet, people take this thing way too seriously.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to
Everything.
work, but I'm gonna have to travel through hell first to get there. To speed up my. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense altogether.
Yeah,
Let's settle down on logic.
So-
It's the Superman scenario though that, and I had this. I used to I'm very big into Superman and collected all the comics and stuff. But people always used to say to me, "But how come no one recognizes him as Clark Kent just because of the glasses?" And I'll be like, "Well, hold on. So you're okay with came from another planet, bullets bounce off the chest, can see through anything except a lead box, get killed by kryptonite, can fly, and is powered by the sun. It's the glasses that are tripping you up."
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Okay.
As a fellow Superman nerd, there's a very logical explanation for that. No one expects Superman to have a secret identity. And also, if you just watch, because I grew up with Christopher Reeves as my Superman, there's a scene in one of those movies where he reveals his identity to Lois Lane. And you can just watch the physical transformation and the tone of voice change from Christopher Reeves as Superman and Christopher Reeves as Clark Kent. And you know what? It's not that weird.
They did this very strange thing, and I can't remember if it was the late 80s or early 90s with Superman, where in the comics, they decided they had to address this issue. And so Superman, when he became Clark Kent, would physically push his cheekbones up and like alter the structure of his face. And it didn't last very long because I think people were like, you know what, go back to the glasses.
yeah, that got retconned. We'll deal with the glasses. Yeah.
This is getting
time
weird.
to go
now.
to work. You just break your
Rush
face.
into the. He's running into the phone booth, whipping off the clothes and going, "Okay, there we are. That's good." Go.
He hits himself too hard. He's got his depressed forehead.
Forgets one side of his face, and it's like, dude, have you got one cheekbone higher than the other? Anyway, sorry, I teach taking us on tangents.
That's fine. I love tangents. In fact, I'm teaching a Culture of the Cold War fourth year course right now, and in 2 weeks, I'm spending 3 hours talking about Cold War comics, and I am talking about Superman.
Yeah, we'll talk about the cheek pushing in.
I will not talk about that. No, but we do. Anyway, back to Templars. Tell me, Steve, which model are you most excited to paint first of all the new range of redone models?
I'm most excited about the Helbrecht model. I won't be painting that first, obviously, because that's not out yet. I pick up my box tomorrow, and I guess, it's really hard to say. Probably the champion. Like the champion is in the box. The Emperor's champion's in the box.
Yeah.
It's probably I won't be fielding him in a competitive army. I don't think. I mean, it may come out that he's amazing.
No, he's just a guy who slaps really hard. But you have
he's always been like
a guy
that.
who slaps really hard.
Yeah. What he needs. What I was hoping that hasn't happened. What I was hoping is that he'd be an elite, like every other chapter champion is an elite choice.
Oh, okay,
but he's an HQ, and you just don't have enough HQ spots unless you want to take a patrol as well, whatever. But in terms of, I have the OG Emperor's champion, and I think from when I sold my army, I kept 2 Black Templar models, Helbrecht and the Emperor's champion. And Helbrecht, with the way I've put him together, my OG guy is standing on this mountain of skulls. You know, you can buy from Games Workshop a box of just skulls. Well, I snipped as many as I could, glued together this mountain, and just painted all these skulls and put Helbrecht standing right on top of it. So I may well do something similar with it, but it's that probably from the box, the Emperor's champion. But the model I'm just the most excited to get my hands on is Helbrecht when he comes out.
Yeah, I agree. That one's going to be a challenge to paint, though. I don't know if you looked at it closely, but it's very busy.
Even the original model is kind of a challenge to paint. It was
true
because it's God, what do you call it? Not plastic.
Finecast.
Thank you.
Finecast. Yeah.
So it's finecast, and so some of the detail on it is a little weird around where the gun is swinging down behind his back. You know, the melter, and it's I found that one a little bit of a challenge to paint, especially because it was like the 5th model I ever tried to paint. But it's all of them are so cool. I can't wait to just make that box, and I think with that box, with what I've already got and that box, I kind of will have just about an army ready to, once that's painted, ready to kind of to go and start playing in tournaments. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
most important question: when you build your Helbrecht, are you putting him with the bear head or with the helmet, like Crusader style helm? Like,
oh man, you want to throw me under the bus, right? Because it doesn't matter what I say. Half of the people listening are going to hate me.
That's right.
Well, I got to be honest. The one thing that I don't love about the Helbrecht model, the original one or this one, is the tiara.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That headband. I love John Lennon. When John Lennon wears a headband, it's awesome and it works. I feel like Helbrecht is
Princess Helbrecht here. Yeah. So I love that Crusader helm for sure. I love that.
Yeah,
like, that looks so
looks so cool. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
Like, so that'll be where I go with it. Probably, although is it still Helbrecht if it's I don't know.
Well,
I think
I personally have a thing against bear heads on my soldiers because I'm like, why are they going into battle without a helmet? This is just stupid. So my Gulliman has the helmet head, and my Helbrecht will have the helmet head. Whenever there's an option to put a helmet on, I do that.
Me too. All of my Rubric Marines have helmets.
Yeah, your Rubric Marines don't have heads.
That's right. Unfortunately, I chose to play Space Wolves, so I'm like,
yes, you have no choice there.
They literally don't have helmets. Yeah.
I've started using helmets, like the model. Anything I've built for the Wolves in the last couple of months has got a helmet on it because I'm just like so sick of painting bear heads. And I've also run it. You get like 5 or 6 cool looking Space Wolf heads, unless you start using third party suppliers. And I've just run out. They like it looks like I've got triplets over here and quadruplets over there. They all
send in the quadruplets.
So I've tried to
that whole family gone.
When you're building an army, at first you try and make it make sense. So with Space Wolves, I'm putting like the long fangs have the older looking heads with the bald and the beards, and anyone who's like a captain or someone like the chapter master of the army looks older. And then the blood claws, the young guys have like the red-headed half hair kind of guy and ponytails. That's at first you're like, I really want to think about this and make sure it all fits. And then after a while, I'm like, I have like 10 heads left. Just put them on. Who cares? And then the next stage of that is, fuck it, helmets. I just get to spray, dry brush, done. You are ready for a tournament. Okay, we're good.
But especially if you're painting for an event, like you got to sometimes get on it.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, that's awesome. This release really has me excited. I mean, I'm a Space Marine fanboy, so that's obviously I'm going to be excited about this release. But I think that's a feeling that's fairly widely shared in the community. And yes, it's another Space Marine release, and yes, they probably should have waited and giving us like another Xenos first, or actually Chaos.
How long
Marines.
has it been? How long has it been since the last Space Marine release?
Well, it's been a while actually since the last Space Marine release. It's just that there's been a lot, right? So Space Marines by themselves have had the Space Marine Codex, and then Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Space Wolves. So that's like 4 releases, separate books for just Marines. And some people think that that's a bit much. And I find it hard to disagree when Chaos Marines still are on a single wound apiece. That's pretty egregious.
Yeah. Well, Thousand Suns.
Yeah, sure. Thousand Suns, Death Guard. You talk
the actual Chaos armies that matter have gotten.
Well, so I was going to say you talk to Nick, and he's going to say that, but you talk to I don't know people who have been playing Alpha Legion since 1998, and they're like, "Why are my Alpha Legion Marines still 1 wound when Thousand Suns are 2 wounds, and every single even Firstborn Marines are now 2 wounds." Anyway. We're not gonna make 2 wound Chaos Marines appear any faster by saying that, but it is something to keep in mind.
The only downside for me with the release is how much excitement and how much enthusiasm there is for it, and by which I mean, and I don't think I'm alone in this. One thing I love about 40K is your ability to personalize your army and make it something that's a little bit different from everybody else's. And so very often previously when I've been choosing a chapter or an army or whatever, I'm trying to pick something that I'm going to go to a tournament and there are not 16 other guys there with the same. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, with Black Templars right now anyway, I suspect in New Zealand, I don't know about other parts of the world, but I know in New Zealand there's a lot of enthusiasm for it and people are building right now and getting ready for whatever tournaments we've got coming up. So I suspect there are going to be a bunch of Black Templars anywhere we go for a little while, and maybe they'll just suck so bad competitively that people won't take them. But I suspect for a couple of tournaments anyway, we're going to have a lot. So I might just stick with my Wolves for a little while, just so that I can wait till the rush is over.
Well, your Black Templars are painted red, so yours are different.
True. Mine are the red Templars.
Right,
So,
they will stand out.
Yeah, the red.
No, I appreciate that. I'm the same. I like. That's one reason why I do like Thousand Suns, because it's like kind of a niche player group. They don't, you don't go to a tournament. There isn't like 20,000 Suns players.
Yeah. Unless suddenly they're amazing, and then you get Nunavati, Chester.
Yeah, exactly. Then they're all of a sudden OG Thousand Suns players. You're like, no.
I do think we'll see a lot of Templars out of simply like the excitement for the range and the nostalgia feeling. But my first read of it, and I could be wrong, but my first read of it is that they're not anything special as far as power level, right? So I think they're basically in that good Marine range, which is perfectly fine because good Marines can still win tournaments, but they're not anywhere close to AdMech or Drukhari, which is probably a good thing. I would rank them personally below Grey Knights as well, power level wise, below Orcs, but we have to be careful with Orcs because Orc has like one super powerful build with the Speed Wall, and the rest of the Codex is kind of underwhelming. So I think they'll be good. I think, yes, people will probably win tournaments with them, but I don't think you're in any danger of people jumping on the bandwagon just to get access to raw power, because the people who would do that are more likely to jump into Drukhari or AdMech or Grey Knights or something else.
Right. You wait till you see how powerful they are. You're going to have people rocking a patrol with that Unkillable Chaplain and one lot of troops just to have them there, and then a battalion with the extra attack vow and going nuts in combat. And it'd be interesting. I kind of agree with you that a lot of it seems like it's going to be, but I'm not very good at this stuff, so it does seem like, just in terms of sheer power, for me, the Space Wolves are still going to be gruntier, on the table. But I'm the kind of person that has to wait for better players to see the combos, see where the stacking is, figure out lists that are going to do really well. And I'm sure that there will be people who spend time doing that and come out with some great combos over the next couple of months,
I'm pretty confident that, somebody that's dedicated to it will come up with a build that works for them and will succeed at, placing at tournaments or even winning tournaments with.
Yeah, for sure.
Templars.
And I mean, I think Jack Arpster from Art of War is committed to taking Black Templars to the next US Open. So I'm sure he'll come up with something really good. And there's jank you can do. You can. I was watching one of their videos recently, and you can take eliminators. When's the last time you saw eliminators on the table? Eliminators can move, shoot, move, because the sergeant fires and then the whole squad moves. And normally that's not a big deal because eliminators are not OBSEC. But Black Templars have one of the most powerful stratagems in the game. They can turn on OBSEC at will in their command phase. And that's just a complete game breaker. If you can take one squad and say, that squad this turn will now have OBSEC, and you just have a squad that can move twice, and then you can devout push it as well. Actually, no, they're not core. So are they core? They could be. Everything in the Space Marine book is core. But you have lots of ways of manipulating these things, and I think it's a book that is less raw powerful, perhaps, than the previous Templar book, because devout push has changed. You can't put Blade Guard into combat without charging or anything like that from an impulsor. You can't do that kind of jank, but you still have movement things.
Give me another few minutes. I'm just talking to my daughter. Sorry.
That's fine.
Just came in to say, "Are you finished yet?"
Yeah.
Pretty clear that I'm not. But
we've stolen their poor father, from them. And
well, my daughter broke her arm last week, and it's been a lot of, "Daddy, can you stay with me until I fall asleep? My arm hurts." So I totally understand that.
And he flicks the lights and closes the door.
No, I have been sitting with her every night. It's kind of rough to see, right? Because she's hurting. But anyway.
Just set up your painting table in there with a little light and start painting models. I can stay with you as long as you want.
Magnifying glasses.
I could be here for hours. Don't worry about it.
Spelunking light on the forehead. I totally should do that. All right. Well, we'll move along. I do want to also address another release that's coming out because I feel like we need to talk about these campaign books. There's another one going on pre-order 2 days from recording. So whenever you listen to the podcast, it may already be out on pre-order. But we have another campaign supplement coming out. And this, I got to say, I'm a lot less happy with. As much as I love this Black Templar release, these campaign books are starting to really upset me. And I want to get Steve's thoughts on this and Nick's thoughts on this, but it's just a level of rules bloat. And it's also, you're going to buy the book for, I don't know, $60 Canadian or $1 million New Zealand, and you're going to get 3 pages of rules, maybe.
Yeah.
And some of them are just reprints. There's fortifications and Inquisition rules in this book coming out. And I haven't seen the book, so I don't know for sure. But my guess is those are just reprints from older rules. And I'm just thinking, GW, what are you doing? You've got all these unreleased codexes, and you're just giving us 3 pages of rules for not even Imperial Guard, but Cadians. As a Guard player, this insults me, because the Guard Codex is now, if not then one of the most out-of-date codexes, because it was one of the very first to come out in 8th. And now you're telling me you're going to give me rules for not Guard, just Cadians? I'm still going to buy it, but, you know.
You guys know me that we've talked about this before, and you guys know me well enough to know that I'm a Games Workshop fanboy. I will defend them, and we've already said it. You know, I love supporting your local store, all of that. I hate it when people rag on Games Workshop for bullshit things, But here's the one area I make an exception: campaign books. I actually hate them, like all of them. Vigilus, everything that's come out as a campaign book. If you want to release a campaign book, cool, but make it for like the Crusade thing, right? Make it a separate thing that's not a tournament deal. It's just, as you say, it's rules bloat, but also, God, how many books do I have to take now to play a game? And also, as a player, like going up against, say, Chaos or Admech or whoever it might be, and they have a special campaign book that they get to use. So that's another layer of things I have to try and understand for their army. And I do, one of the big appeals when 9th dropped, actually when 8th dropped, and then 9th, was simplifying the game, right? Like 7th got just out of control. And then when 8th came in, it was like, you know what we want to do? We want to simplify. We want to bring it all back to the beginning. And then, yes, when we had codexes, but for me, this is the one area where I will say, I just hate them. I hate them. I don't think they're necessary. I don't think they add anything. They're great flavor if you want to have flavor, but that's where the Crusade stuff comes in. So sure, get a campaign book for your Crusade that you're playing with your friends. It should not be a tournament legal thing.
Yeah, that's or not. If not just for Crusade, then just for narrative. But I think that's what you were kind of saying.
That's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, narrative campaigns. Yeah.
And I say I say that as someone who uses the Cult of Strife supplement from all the time. But you know what? I don't think, and it's awesome, but I don't think those should be allowed at tournaments. I know it's kind of a slippery slope to start banning things, because you start banning one thing and then the next thing is too strong and then you ban that next thing. And before you know it, you end up with a long ban list, and that's a problem. But those campaign books, I just don't like them.
Yeah, and I think it's real easy, though. You say codex. Codex is the codex is what you operate on, and there will be supplements to a codex or FAQs or updates to a codex. If Games Workshop feels like a codex is underpowered or whatever, and they want to release a couple of pages of rules for a specific army and say, okay, this replaces that or adds on to that in the codex. But having a whole campaign book, as you say, for however many dollars, which just adds layers of complication and layers of rules and layers of just whatever. I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure how that interacts with, like, they're coming out with the Tyranid rules, right? In this one, or some Tyranid rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're reworking how Synapse works, actually.
Well, when Tyranid book comes out, their book comes out, how does that interact with it? Does it interact with the former Tyranid's book or with the latter Tyranid's book? It interacts with both of them. Like, it's kind of interesting. Like, how does that all kind of... I don't like it, especially like you guys said. We still have like so many codexes that haven't been released yet. Feels like, why is there creative effort being put into this at what, from our perspective, seems to be at the expense of delivering on these other actual codexes? So I am very disappointed. I also don't like it, and I'm a little like Steve. Like, there's nothing GW generally can do to piss. Like, I showed you guys, I bought that stupid plushie. The Nurgling plushie, like.
Yes, everyone, listeners, Nick bought the Nurgling plushie.
Yeah,
with his
exactly.
with his $20 voucher from GW for subscribing to Warhammer Plus.
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
He needed to buy something, right? So of course it
Fanboy
was
too.
the Nurgling plushie.
Yeah, exactly. But I do agree that this is something that I find disappointing as well. Yeah.
I like, and look, let's be honest, no one from Games Workshop cares at all what we're thinking. They're not going to change their plan based on what we say. But I do like the index system because it feels more honest. Like when some of the Space Wolves got an index, and they basically came out and said, look, there are some powerful armies who have got codexes. We recognize that you haven't got a codex, and therefore you kind of suck. So here's an index, and the index will cover the rules you need to be competitive right now. Right? When Ninth first dropped, a bunch of armies got an index. I just like that better because it's honest, and it's what we need right now to play the game. And then they say, when we can get a codex to you, because we can't publish everything at once, we understand that. When we can get a codex to you, that will replace the index that you've got. But this whole dribs and drabs thing is, I don't know. I think I've said. You've got the idea, right, of how I feel about
totally. I just needed to get this anti-campaign book rant off my chest, and I'm glad we're in agreement. It's just, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll still buy it because I'm a sucker. But they shouldn't exist. In fact, I messaged my guy a couple of days ago, and I said, just make sure you put one aside for me, right?
That's how much of a sucker he is. He's got a guy. He doesn't go
Well, I think that's the thing. That's when you know. I rang my guy and said, the Black Templar box. He goes, I've already don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I've already got one there for you, bud. So
I was there too when the 1,000 Suns came up. I literally just texted him a picture of the Hexfire box, and I said, you know what to do.
That's right. We just all should get the Warhammer logo, like the Warhammer wings here with sucker written across the top of it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
First step in solving a problem is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. We should all go to 40K Anonymous and instead of.
Is that a podcast name? Did you just create a podcast?
40K Anonymous.
Right. And we have to start each podcast with identifying ourselves and say, and I'm 40K. And then we go,
yeah, exactly.
Welcome, Nick. Welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I think we've had a really good conversation tonight. I do want to talk about one more thing really quickly before we go, but we're almost at the 1 hour mark, and we try to keep these under an hour. I just want to, for our Canadian listeners out there, I want to talk about the Stutter Snotling tournament, which is coming up in just about 10 days, not even 9 days from now. It's not this weekend, but the following weekend. And both Nick and I are going to go there. It's in Toronto. We're going to get to stay at the very scenic Toronto airport hotel and play 40K for a couple of days. And I can't tell you guys how excited I am about finally playing in a big 2-day 128 person 40K major event down in the United States, because apparently COVID doesn't exist down there. They've been doing that for a long time, and I've been real jealous. I've been wanting to go to these big events, and we finally have one, and Nick and I are going. And so next episode we will have a recap of that event,
and hugs and kisses for everyone that we haven't seen in 2 years.
There's so many people that we know, that we love, that we haven't seen because we only see them at Warhammer events, that are going to be there. It's going to be such a good time. It's going to be exhausting though, because on the first day it's a 4-game day. We start at 8:30 a.m. and we finish at 9 p.m. So it's like 13 hours of Warhammer on day one, because it's a 6-game tournament. And to allow people to drive back, because it's Canada, right? Where everything is far. We need to end at a reasonable hour. For us, for me, it's a 4.5 hour drive. Yeah. So when it ends on the Sunday night, I need to drive back home. So they did a 4 and 2 rather than a 3 and 3 to accommodate that, which is great. But it means that our stamina is going to be real pushed on the Saturday. By game 4, we're all going to be making some really dumb mistakes.
I'm just going to be pushing models like turn 2, let's just call it.
That might happen, So Nick is taking his 1,000 Suns. I'm taking my Drukhari, and it's going to be such a good time.
Nice. That's
also,
awesome.
Before we sign off, Steve, do you have any plugs, anything you want to kind of, whatever, talk about before we sign off?
I probably should. I probably should, but you know what? I'm just the one thing I will say is we're supposed to have a tournament here in a couple of weeks as well, which I'm super excited about. Going to take the Wolves to. The guys from Kraken Wargaming are putting on a GT. It's in Auckland in New Zealand, 50 players. Unfortunately, with the state of COVID in Auckland, in that city particularly at the moment, it may not happen. So,
that's too bad.
everybody, if you're in the 40K community, just keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. But if I can encourage people to tune into Game Changers, which you guys have already very kindly done, and I'm excited about being a part of the Art of War team, kind of in bits and pieces over the next little while. One of the big things for me is that I'm going to, I think, be able to ingest a whole lot of information just from talking to great players, from interviewing great players, and be able to learn a bit more about the game, and maybe play a bit better. Although most of the lessons, I can talk real well about it. I've got big brain talking, but then when I get to the table, my brain turns into like a raw chicken in there, and I just can't. It's just like nothing.
Smoothens right out.
That's awesome. I wasn't sure if your Art of War stuff was public knowledge yet. So that's why I didn't mention it. But I'm it's
no, I outed him. I just outed him. So.
It's gonna be awesome to hear your voice on more 40K podcasts.
Oh, we didn't. Did we not talk about that on air? I thought we
No, that was off air.
Okay, well. For your listeners then, hey, guess what? I'm part of the Art of War podcasting team now. So I don't know when the first one goes to air, but we recorded the first one yesterday. I'm going to be co-hosting Art of War with John Lennon. I know Tim Pinney is still going to be hosting some of them, but I'm going to be involved in the hosting process as well. So John Lennon and I co-hosting the Art of War podcast with guests that come on and talk about, their amazing armies and how well they're doing with them.
Well, as a War Room subscriber now, I look forward to hearing your voice on more of my daily 40K podcast. As I walk my dog, and if I'm walking the dog, I have a 40K podcast running in my ear. So, Steve, your voice is going to be in my ear even more than it already is.
It's my goal to be wall-to-wall Steve for Francois.
Wall-to-wall Steve.
Wall-to-wall Steve.
I could do worse,
Yeah, wall-to-wall.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. I feel like we got our groove going. If we were a little frazzled at the beginning, it's because Darren had surgery last minute.
Yeah.
But it's a very professional. We run a tight ship over here at CanHammer.
Yeah.
I'm going to start researching right now for the next episode.
Speaking of tight ships, I should remind all of you listeners to follow us on social media. That's always a great help. If you're so inclined, look at our Patreon, look at our YouTube channel, Facebook. Nick and I are on Twitter. I don't know if there is an official CanHammer Twitter. I think there might be, but Nick and I separately are on Twitter. You can find us easily, and we will. If you talk to us on Twitter, we will interact with you. Thank you for listening as usual, and we'll catch you very soon. We won't let an entire month go by before the next one, because I know that Nick and I will be very excited to tell you all about our Starter Snotling experience.
Either excited or pretty disappointed.
Okay, so yes.
Good luck, guys. Good luck.
Hopefully, we'll be excited to tell you all about our Starter Snotling experience. On that note, have a good evening. And